This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system. Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system. I'm Matt Dean and this is Andy Halliwell.
This is not the normal record time, is it? We normally do it in the morning when the day hasn't taken hold. And you've put the record time back today because you've been on a romantic weekend away or whatever you've been doing. And it's now the afternoon. My laptop's gone into update mode. I've already been to the pub for lunch. I've left my family in the pub and come back. I'm 4 Guinnesses deep.
Right. Well, anyway, so Andy, I've been on a little family sort of weekend. Just went to the pub yesterday. Went to stay with some family and had a few pints and had a lovely meal cooked for us and all that kind of stuff. So it was very, very nice, civilized. Didn't go to the game as a result. Didn't get to keep up with the game really, other than the scoreline. So we do need a fan guest. I don't know if you managed to catch it, Andy, the game.
No, I didn't catch much of it. I listened to parts of it yesterday. Yeah. But we've got a fan guest who's making his debut. Shall I do the questions?
Yes, please.
Fan guest, when was your first game?
I have no idea what my first game was, but it would probably have been around about 87, 88. And how I worked that out was it still had fencing up, so it was sort of pre-Hillsborough. So I had to work out roughly when that was. So yeah, it was sort of like just before the glory time, really.
Yeah, well, he's another man of our generation, Matt. Who was your first favourite player then, fan guest?
Probably Roger Palmer. Probably, I would have thought around that time.
Yeah,
it's probably everybody's, isn't it? It's a bit of a cliche, but he was a good.
He were mine. Yeah, he were my favourite player for sure. What is your favourite Latics related memory?
I would say. Even though all the glory times, probably more recently was Forest away, I would think. That was probably the one time in the bleak sort of 20, 30 years it's been, where we could come back from that deficit and come out with a result was something special. And one of the memories was I had Josie Bax's dad in a headlock. And we were slagging Robbie Simpson off for about 15 minutes before it as well, which was quite funny. It's a story we always tell everybody.
Well, it's a great game for me as well. That happened to be the first game that I took my now wife to.
Yeah, wow.
Which was
a keeper then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And tell us a little unknown fact about yourself.
Well, thinking about this, I haven't really got any unknown facts really, but I think one of the things that probably a lot of people don't know is me and a fellow Latics fan. We did a walk for dementia a couple of years ago, and we walked from Valencia football ground down to Alicante stadium, 125 miles in 5 days straight.
Nice one.
Yeah, and we raised about $6,000, so it was a brilliant experience, but yeah, that's probably the only thing I could really come up with. Really, I'm not that interested.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised what you see in them Spanish hills away from the coastline.
Yeah. I bet you do. Yeah. So then, give us your name. Who are you?
I'm John, also known as Macca.
John MacDonald.
Yeah,
full name.
That's right.
Welcome to the podcast, John.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
So it's just as well you're here because otherwise me and Andy wouldn't really have any clue what happened yesterday, apart from the fact that Latics came from 2-0 down. From 2-0 down to 3-2 up, the Oldham boys were going up.
Yeah,
there was a song that we used to sing about the Chef Wednesday game. Not quite a game of that magnitude, but basically the same outcome.
Yeah.
Late penalty to seal it. Not quite as composed as Neil Redfern might find out. But tell us about the game, John.
Well, I think it panned out exactly how I expected it to. We were talking before the game and we were saying that let's just hope we don't, after having been such good form and playing really well before the break. Well, said break, but the games that don't really matter. We were talking before on saying that I hope we don't have a bit of an hangover today. And the first 20 minutes was exactly the hangover I had yesterday, to be honest with you. But it was just really slow. We were bypassing midfield. We didn't really sort of get the foot on the ball and dictate the game. And it weren't really till you were 2-0 down that we then started to, really look like we wanted to, get back in the game. And it was a bit reminiscent of last season, to be honest with you. The first 10, 15 minutes, it was shocking. We just couldn't hold the ball. But fair play to them. They didn't look like a team that, I've been struggling of late. Every time they got the ball, they wanted to come forward with it, which, I'm really surprised we're there in the league, to be honest with you. It's only part time.
Yeah, I mean we've done the double on this season now because we're into that stage where we start doing the doubles, and it was a close 1-0 game down at Wealdstone earlier on in the season. Yeah. But prior to this season, we hadn't beaten them, had we? And no. We know that they're a good footballing side. We know that they like to knock it about, and I was hoping that we'd come out of the blocks like we did against Forest Green and really get really push them back and stop them from playing and dominate them in that way. It doesn't sound like that was the case, though.
No, there was just no press. Which what we've been really good at, haven't we? For the last sort of like 10, 15 games, the press has been that good. Teams can't cope with us, but I don't know, with the quality we have on the field in the middle, we were bypassing it. But we were sort of like Norwood and Stones didn't seem to be on the same page. Norwood was getting crawled all over, and to be honest with you, the referee was absolutely abysmal once again. He weren't pulling. It was like the final warning for everybody all game.
Yeah.
And it was just. It looked like it was going to be one of them afternoons until we pulled it. I think the goal was key just before half time. I think if that wouldn't have gone in, it might have been a different game. Second half, to be honest with you. Probably
the timing of the goals was superb, weren't they, John? Like one just before half time and one just after half time. That really, like you say, it was key, really. Yeah,
and I said at half time as well. I know we all know Norwood and Stones are the go-to strikers now, but I possibly think yesterday might have been, a game for Fondop really yesterday. If we were going to sort of play them, if that was the idea to get it forward quickly, because Norwood really was totally ineffective, yesterday, in my opinion. But sometimes I think for all his lack of ability and sometimes thought, he's sometimes, if you're going to go long, you're better off with Fondop sometimes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be going long all the time.
No,
it is part of our game. That long diagonal ball to kitchen mostly is what we try. But I mean, look. What like I said, I didn't see the game yesterday because I was away I was in the pub having a lovely time. Apart from when the scores started to come through, and the only thing that made that early goal worse was when I actually saw it. It was an absolute howler, wasn't it? I'm not going to lump on Hudson because I think he's been really good for us this season. But there's keepers in much higher leagues, Champions League, Premier League that do this now with these sort of passing out from the backs. It was a bit of a brain fart from him, wasn't it? And it was a poor ball.
But then I think yesterday as well. I think it was the you don't realise how much you rely on Charlie Raglan. I think, because I think we're probably a centre half a bit shy, and when they sort of swapped Sutton into the middle in the second half as well, and put more Ogle on the right hand side, which seemed to work a little bit better. Because Will Sutton, for all his faults, when he's playing on the right, he was actually really, when he's down the middle, I think he's quite effective. He's half decent centre half. I think that looked better. We looked a lot more balanced, but you don't realise how much you miss Charlie Raglan.
Well, not only have we got Charlie Raglan, you got to remember Sean Hobson's been out long-term injury until January. So if both of those were fit, we're not short of a centre half.
No,
I don't think
it's how long it's going to take. Probably how long it's going to take him to get fit when we do get him on the grass.
Well, he's going to be a few weeks into the new year. 100%. I think from what I've picked up, I think Raglan might be out for a couple of weeks. It'd be touch and go whether he makes York. So that is going to be tough.
My dad had a quick word with him when he went to the club shop last week, earlier this week, and Raglan said he'd done something to his knee and he'd be out for a couple of weeks. So
a big loss.
Yeah, it is. He's been fantastic, and I was disappointed with the second goal as well because that was soft. It was. I watched all the defenders; they're all ball watching. They all run out to play the offside, but none of them were aware of where the Wealdstone players are. It was sloppy. I think
sure even likes of Month yesterday. He was an absolute mountain, isn't he? And he's a rock every game. But even yesterday, he was shinning balls, and it was. The first half an hour was just, it wasn't a good watch. And they're the lads that you usually rely on, aren't you? But even he was shedding things and miscontrolling things, and it just looked like one of them days at the office, if you know what I mean. But it all turned out well, didn't it? At the end of the day.
I mean, the obvious thing to say, isn't it, is that if you're picking 3 points, so we obviously didn't play well yesterday. If you're picking 3 points up from not playing well, I'd say that's a good sign, isn't it?
100%.
This is the type of stuff that teams who go on and achieve things do. I guess you've got to. I saw a few people complaining. I got a few messages from people yesterday saying Hudson best keeper in the league. Question mark. And and I just think it's a bit. I didn't bother responding because it's just a bit churlish sometimes. You're like one mistake every now and again. I saw some people saying he thought he should have done better for the second one. I'm not so sure. I haven't seen it, but
Well, the whole defense should have done better for the second one. I don't think you should be picking anybody out. It was a poor goal to concede.
Let's be honest. It's like when goalkeepers make mistakes at this level. It's to be expected. I think they wouldn't be here, would they? Half of them if. It's 50 different football. You're going to get mistakes in goalkeepers, but I think overall he's pretty good, isn't he?
He's certainly not high on the problematic list, is he? Compared to other stuff. I think he's fine.
But there is an issue. There is an issue there though with defending set pieces, isn't there? From the whole defensive unit for the whole team, because the whole team defends set pieces, and we are vulnerable. Obviously, Leighton Orient was only a couple of weeks ago. We got done by a couple there. We got done from it was a corner, I think, wasn't it? Their second goal yesterday, and so we've got to do better as a unit because it seems that from yesterday that we gifted them the first goal and the second goal's a set piece, so we're not conceding like Leighton Orient. We're not conceding goals from open play. It is set pieces, and that's got to be something that I'm sure Mickey Mellon's working on with the staff on the training ground. But the players have got to be sharper and more aware at these set pieces, and because I think if we can deal with that, we're gonna be really difficult to beat because we don't give much away in open play.
Have you listened to Mickey Mellon's interview? Is it worth dropping that in now?
Mickey, a win after coming from 2 goals behind. How pleased are you with that comeback?
Obviously, very pleased with the result and getting the 3 points in the end. I think we looked undercooked today. That's always the fear when you sort of don't have any league games for a wee while. I'm not making excuses. I've seen this before. I tried to guard against it and try to make sure that we didn't sort of fall into the not remembering the tempo that was needed for us to be a good team trap. And we did that in the first half and found ourselves 2 goals down. But pure brute character and determination got us a result today. But we have been much better than that. In places like Leighton Orient and not got a result. But the positives are that we're able to win games of football when we weren't at our best, really. But I tell you who was at the best, the supporters. They stuck with them and they kept with them, and that's the big change here. That's the big absolute. If anybody said to me what's changed at Oldham, I'd say we're winning games and we're doing what we need to do, but the supporters get it. They get when we need them. They get not to get on our backs. They know that we'll keep going. They know that we're fit, and they know that we'll come eventually. And we will give it everything we've got for them. And collectively at the end, it was nice to pick up a really valuable 3 points from 2 goals down at home. Rolled on by the supporters, but I'd be the first to say that we looked a wee bit undercooked. I think that's the word for it. We all there was a lot of, wasn't really many that I could say. I'm not saying everybody because people scored goals and that, haven't they? But we just looked like that today. But listen, we get that, and we'll be able to move on now. And I'm glad that we've got that game under our belt now, and we'll move on to the next one now.
Getting 3 points after being 2-0 down is no mean feat. How much character and determination did you see in the lads to produce that result?
Massive amounts, but I know that we're capable. And to be fair, I never really got flustered about it. I was obviously peed off, but I just felt if we get one, I think we become favourites here, because I know where the momentum will swing and it'll be to us. But what I must say is I thought Wealdstone came here and gave a really good account of themselves as well. I thought they really did. I think you've got to give credit to, it's not all about Oldham, you've got to go and beat the opposition and the rest of it. And I thought Wealdstone gave a really good account of themselves. And as we were undercooked, I thought they were good. And they were good value probably for the 2-0 lead. So fair's fair, I've always liked to be fair. But we rolled back at them and they couldn't contain us, and eventually we were able to tilt the result over the line.
I know it's often said, but being able to get maximum points when we're not at our best, is that the sign of a good team? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. Because everybody that's watched us knows of all the qualities that we have, and they would have been able to see in the individuals where it was missing today. But I definitely know from my experience of managing for so long that what happens is sort of, when you have a layoff like we've had from the league, you sort of forget about the tempo. You sort of, the mind forgets about what it felt like to play a tempo that makes us a good team, and it certainly did that today. But listen, we get back on it again, and a really massive 3 points going into an exciting Christmas period.
After going 2 down...
Is this the Christmas period yet? Are we in the Christmas period yet? Is that the first one in the Christmas period?
I think so, yeah.
First game of one in the Christmas period, and there you go.
After going 2 down, did you have to look to change much before we got the comeback?
Yeah, with a wee tweak of a few things, and you just try and look, and I spoke to you on Friday, I said we go all out with the way that we want to play in Disneyland every week. This is if it all goes right, this is what we'd like to happen. But what we have been able to do this season is we've watched and looked at the games, and we've looked at who was performing and who maybe needed a wee nudge, or where we might need to find something else, or maybe a wee tweak in the system or whatever. We were able to do a wee bit of that today, and the boys that come on sort of helped us with that. So that was pleasing as well.
We've spoken a lot over the last couple of weeks about Josh Stones. Do those goals show exactly what he's about?
Yeah, I think, you know, in the bigger scale of things, I think he came to us undercooked. I think he came to us. He's a boy that needs rhythm. He's a stocky boy. He's a boy that needs to play football regularly. If you take that away from him, he sort of loses his way a little bit. And he came to us, and I knew that he hadn't played a lot of football when he came, so I knew that we were going to have to get games under his belt to get him up to the speed that makes him a good player. So his example as an individual, our example as a team. So I was really pleased for him today, because he's a really good player for us.
No Charlie Ragland today. What was up with him?
Charlie's injured, so we'll have to deal with that and see where we can go with that. Obviously, he's a good player for us, but the boys all comes in a day, and he's part of a team that gets a win, so that's important. It was when called upon, the squad boys can come in and help us to get results.
And just finally, as you said, it's kind of the start of the Christmas period, isn't it? Everyone says it's always a crucial time of the year. How important is it to get back to league action with a win? Huge.
I said to you before, and I can say it now, I couldn't care less about the cup. I couldn't care less. I couldn't say it before because I was respecting the tournament. I could not care now even what happens in that cup. Our priority is always going to be the league. That's what we are fighting for this season. We haven't got a huge squad that could go far in a tournament without me using the group that I believe are the ones that give me good chances of winning games. It was as simple as that. So the squad that played on the game in the cup, we never played well enough to go through. And every credit to the opposition for winning that game. But there was no tears at the end, I can assure you, except from the gale force wind that was battering into my face and the numbness of my whole body that I'd never felt before quite in a football match in all my life. I wasn't disappointed to hear the final whistle. I wanted to go home. So now we want to get on with the league business.
Well done for that.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
You know, it's one of them. It's the cliches, isn't it? It's about. I tweeted yesterday. I'd not even seen the game. It's not about quality. It's about character, because that's what it was. It was obvious. You come from 2-0 down. You've obviously not done well. You've got the character. So all those questions are always going to be, you know, at the forefront of Alan's mind, and those are going to be the things that come out. But yeah, and then he said he's seen it before, where you have that little drop in momentum after the league, like you said as well, Macca. Before you said that it happens, and he's seen it before, and so it was crucially important just to win the game yesterday, and because Braid, look, we were just talking about it before, weren't we, John? A poor result for York, drawing at Tamworth. Forest Green just got a 1-0 at Boston. You know, we're going to Braintree next week. It's not a given, is it, that you go down there and you pump them like you did at home? It's still going to be tough. So we needed that yesterday. We didn't need to go 2-0 behind, but sometimes things like that are a bit of a blessing in disguise, aren't they? Because teams do tend to respond well when they've come from behind like that, and hopefully they'll carry that through. What did you make of what did you make of Mickey's comments about the supporters? A little bit of cute management again from him, or just staying it as it was?
I think he's since the back end of last year, where a lot of people were criticising Mellon for being a bit anti-supporter, weren't they, at the back end of last year? And because one thing I like about Mellon, I think from the minute he's come in, I think he's told the fans what they don't like to hear. If I'm honest, they are negative. A vast majority of them, they do like to have a good moan. And I think that's one thing. What he's managed that since the fans forum last year. He's very, very complimentary of the fans all the time, isn't he now? And he always says, they're the 12th man, and they've got behind us from the first whistle. And I think that's, he's managing the fans very well, and it always helps when you're winning games as well, doesn't it? At the end of the day, But I think he's a good feel around everything. It's and I like Mellon. I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's doing a good job, and long may it continue.
I mean, I've seen some comments on social media about the atmosphere and stuff yesterday, and I just think that it's not. Look, Boundary Park is not, I don't know, bloody prime Dortmund or something, is it? You've got like a bank of 20,000 madheads jumping up and down or whatever. But it's hard to get excited against some of the teams we're playing. It's not, I think especially if you're not playing well, there's no away fans, there's no banter and back and forths against away fans and things like that. It's hard to maintain a party atmosphere at home all the way through or keep going, especially when you're relying, and we are relying on a small group of youngsters behind the goal, because you don't get it from around the stadium particularly. So, and it's a lot to expect of the Atleticos to keep it going all the time and stuff like that. So, but I think as we progress, and hopefully we progress through the leagues, and we've got bigger teams coming to Boundary Park and bigger away followings, and it feels like it means a bit more to be beating teams particular temes. I think the atmosphere will improve. And
I thought the atmosphere was all right yesterday. I thought the Rochdale Road got behind the team. There was when the second goal went in, it rippled around into the other stands as well. But it's like you said, 2-0 down, and then you still get the same rumblings of negativity, around the ground. And, I'll be honest with you, that's one of the first times yesterday where even at 2-0, I wasn't overly worried. There's at least 45 minutes worth of football in this team. We haven't had that for the last 2 seasons. Definitely, we haven't had that, have we?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's credit to Mellon, because he's definitely instilled a fighting spirit amongst them. You do feel, and I think that's why everyone is becalmed a bit like you're sort of alluding to now. Is I feel for the games I've been to on the terrace, there isn't a panic. As soon as a goal went in previous seasons, people panicked because you knew it was going to be an uphill task. And now you feel like this team can pull it back and can come from behind to win games. And credit to Mellon. I just think that Mellon is acutely aware that he's got the fans on his side and he's playing to his audience a little bit, which is great. I think he's clever. I think he's been very clever with James Norwood. I think he's been clever with the supporters. Long may it continue, because he's trying to build. I think that Leighton Orient response after the game took them back a bit. They were quite surprised about how positive people were, and they want to keep that going for as long as they can, and that's great.
Tottenham merch, sexy merch. It's Tottenham merch. It's sexy, sexy, sexy merch.
Visit weareoldham.co.uk/shop now to see our brand new range of hot, sexy merch.
Tottenham merch, sexy merch. It's Tottenham merch. It's sexy, sexy, sexy merch.
Just while we're on the subject of supporters, so I compete in the When the Blues prediction league, right? If anyone doesn't play it. It's a bit of fun, right? Get on a When the Blues and play it. You basically have to predict the half-time score, full-time score, goal score, attendance, right? And yesterday, I've been doing all right this year. I've been getting some decent points. This year, the attendance yesterday, I was convinced was going to be at least 300 in front of the attendance for the season so far, on the basis that we'd been told we'd sold 300 half year season tickets, right? So I was thinking, be about 300 on the gate, roughly. Bearing in mind, no one brings anything other than a handful of teams away. And yet the attendance yesterday was still 5-5, right? Which I was scratching my head about. I was thinking, I thought we counted all season tickets sold in the attendance. I thought that was something we'd done. So therefore, there should be at least 300 on top. And then that made me go back and have a look at what was the average attendance last season. I know it was higher. It was actually 6-6. And the season before, our first season, straight after the takeover, was also 6-6. And so 5-5 is when you've sold some half-year season tickets and you're on a roll where we're winning games and are higher up the league. It's a bit disappointing, isn't it? What do you think?
I think that the timing before Christmas, I think you're probably going to get... Yeah, I mean, it is. I think, but what the timing we are just before Christmas, I think you're probably going to lose some of your pay on the days. So I'd expect the York attendance to be pretty good because it usually is at Christmas. So I would imagine that even though you've got 300 new half-season ticket holders, you're probably going to lose a few hundred on the gate, which is probably why it's not really made much of a difference. I think obviously the York game's going to be massive, but it's going to be interesting to see how the attendances creep up towards the end of the season when we've got something to play for. Maybe a lot of it's, again, coming right around to the mindset thing of the fans, like how are people feeling? Are they thinking, it's all going to go wrong at some point? Is there still a large cohort of our fan base that have got that I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing? Or what? I don't know, because it's interesting, like you said, Andy, that the attendances are down by 1,000, and we didn't quite understand it, did we, at the beginning of the season when people were saying, I'm not going this season and stuff like that. And,
I mean, I didn't understand people doing that because we're obviously on a journey. But then if you accept that that's the case, I think the what I'd expected by now is to have begun to creep back a little bit. And it hasn't really. It's kind of flatlined. So it'll be interesting to see, because we got to bear in mind, if you think about Josh Stone's scoring 2 yesterday and starting to get into his stride. And really and truthfully, we could do with him for the rest of the season, couldn't we?
Definitely.
And if we're going to get him for the rest of the season, if we don't know whether Wigan will be prepared to talk to us or not about a loan extension, then the other option is to try and buy him. Well, we're only going to be able to buy him if we've got more money coming in, because there is a deficit. There is a significant deficit every year at the minute that the Rothwells are footing at the moment, and I guess we need the townsfolk to get behind the club. And I was hoping to see a bit of a bump yesterday, but I mean, it isn't like the end of the world yet, but it would be great to get well over that 6,000 mark. When you bear in mind Southend have got well over 6,000 and they're struggling this year, and we're doing much better than we have. I'd hope that it might have been a bit higher.
I'll be honest with you. I was surprised the attendances were so high last season, to be honest with you, because second year in the National League, and we were getting really good. What was averages last year? About six, something like that. Six, something like that. Yeah. So I was surprised they were that high, to be honest with you, last year, because there's a lot of apathy about, weren't there?
Well, it was high. It was high because people had invested in season tickets in the summer, hoping that we were going to start well, and we didn't. And so, therefore, I was kind of expecting, having a bit of a hit this year is not necessarily that surprising. But like I say, it's the non-creeping up, and I think that probably leads me into. So I don't explain this story. Christ, give me a minute, right? So you remember when you came to stay at my house, Matt, and so me and the wife don't really watch much TV, right? So we played the radio a lot, as you know, when you came to stay, and we on a Friday night we play a London-based radio station that we listen to, and then when the show that we listen to stops at 9, we flick it over to this other one, which has got this strange name, hasn't it? Called Mum's Spaghetti Radio, right? And the wife found it when she was messing about. She was listening to it. It was like reasonable to listen to. And we're listening to this Mum's Spaghetti Radio. And all of a sudden, the advert comes on for PJR Windows in Royton. And then another advert comes on for the Spindle Shopping Centre. So we're sat here in West London, and I'm like, what is going on here? Are they listening to me or something? They didn't know. So anyway, as I learn, Mum's Spaghetti Radio is owned by the same gentleman, because you informed me when you stayed, who owns the Oldham Cron. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Matt Ramsbottom up on the Oldham Edge, what used to be the Revolution. Yeah. Yeah.
So this radio station. This radio station that you can stream through your smart TV, and here's me in West London streaming this radio station that I don't know about, and it's an Oldham-based radio station. And then literally in the last week, this advert has just started to drop on that radio station.
Now then, it's Frank here, the chairman of Oldham Athletic. We've had a fantastic start to the season with great results on the pitch. Our home form will be crucial this year, and we want to make Boundary Park bouncing. Get behind Mickey Mellon and the team with the upcoming home games and make a difference from the stands. Join me and the Athleticals in the Rocky Road end, and let's get behind the drum. For home tickets, visit oldhamathletic.co.uk/tickets. Now remember, it's cheaper to get tickets in advance, so make sure you get yours now and save a few quid. Now, come on, you Blues!
This is Mum's Spaghetti.
By the way, this is not Mum's Spaghetti Radio.
No, it's not.
But I'm sure they'll be delighted for the free advert anyway.
Yeah. Well, but also it's the Latics advert. I mean, for me, obviously I work in advertising. I'm like, it's commendable that the club is attempting to generate more revenue by trying to get people in and doing outreach to media brands that sit within the Oldham Metropolitan Borough. I think that's a great idea, and they should be encouraged to do more of it. So I thought we should play it so people could hear it. But then it sort of leads back to we're still only getting 5,500 in. So I just thought that those two stories linked, and I'm hoping that people do get behind it.
I think that what they need to do is they need to reach out to me and Dave and we'll get some synth electro synth, and you need a little sing-along tune that Frank can sing or rap along to. So just a little earworm that you need to do that. But yeah, hopefully people do buy them, and I think the York game, it's going to be a big game because like we said before, we've bottled big games, haven't we? In recent times, there's going to be a big crowd. York are going to bring a few. They'll be noisy. And we need to win that game, and that could be, if we come out of that Christmas period, we've still got the 2 games. We will still have the 2 games in hand, so we might not be able to climb up the table depending on how the other teams do. But like that could be the thing. If we can beat Braintree, we can beat York and perform. And it's a really good occasion. That might be the thing that brings a few people back for the following games. What's the game that we've? Well, let's just. I'm just going to look for something. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think that York game is pivotal in that respect?
I think it's like previous years, isn't it? When you think you're doing all right. I think our fan base is quite fickle at times, and I think there's probably still a little bit of. When are the wheels going to come off with people? I think it's that self-belief amongst our fan base, and I think like Matt said, I think once we get past Christmas, I've got a feeling that you will see an increase in when it starts getting a bit of a reality, and you're heading towards the end of the season. I think them crowds will swell a little bit. But
the reality of this division is that, all right, we've got York City on Boxing Day, and that should be good because they'll bring a few. Then we're away at Hartlepool, which is a proper football club, and we'll take a few up there. And then we're away at Eastleigh. We have back-to-back games against Eastleigh. We play them on the Tuesday the 7th, and then we play them on Saturday the 11th at home. And the fact is that it's freezing cold in January at Boundary Park. We've got Eastleigh coming. We've got Aldershot coming in January. We've got Altrincham, which will be all right. We've got Sutton, Maidenhead. They're not glamorous fixtures by any stretch of the imagination. So, and they're not going to bring many with them. So it is a case of just kind of like knuckling down as a fan and saying, right, I'm going to these games. I want to put money in the coffers. I want to get behind the team, and I'm going to stand out in the cold, and hopefully we'll win the games. And there's not much more that the club can do. There's not much more that the team can do. If they keep winning, then that's what it's all about. And then as the season comes to a close and the weather starts to warm up a bit, hopefully, in March we've got Rochdale, we've got Halifax at home, Hartlepool at home in April. So hopefully,
there's just so much. There's just so much hinging on this season now, isn't there? Really, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the lads and Mickey because it's a lot of players that are contracted at the end of the season as well. So if you're going into next season, depending on where we are, it's going to be some sales pitch either way, isn't it? I think.
Let's have a form table update. Love a bit of form table update. Last 4, Latics are top of the league. Joint on 10 points with Barnet. Over the last 6, Latics are top of the league, joint 14 points with Barnet. Over the last 8, we are second, 17 points over the last 8, 1 point behind Forest Green. And Forest Green had an easier set of fixtures during that 8. Over the last 10, we're second behind Forest Green, 23 points off 10. They've got 24 off 10. Again, they had an easy set of fixtures. Over the last 12, Latics are top of the table over the last 12, 29 points, plus 16 goal difference, best in the league. What's not to get behind?
I know. Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely. I mean, we're preaching to the choir here, I think, on the podcast. I don't think it's people that listen to this and, I think we're all invested and we want to see Latics carry on this form, and we'll go either way, won't we, at the end of the day? Like, if you went the last couple of seasons, that was kind of what I didn't kind of get, really. It was like, I know we didn't know what to expect from this season, but we figured that given Mickey Mellon given a bit of time and some money to spend, he'd improve the team on last season. So I didn't expect there to be such a drop off in attendances. People gave the National League a couple of seasons and then got sick of it. But I don't think really it's any, apart from if you're an away fan, obviously it's a much lower standard of stadia and things like that. The experience is very different. But I don't think in terms of the games and the quality of the games, it's not that much worse than League Two.
League Two. Oh no, definitely not. I mean, if you look at, we've said this before. There is a metric that you can measure based on performance, and most of the top half National League sides are as good as the bottom half League Two sides, and you see what teams do. No, the quality of football, I don't think.
Yeah, and the entertainment value of the games is as much of a muchness, isn't it? But then, having said that, the attendances that we had in League Two were way down on what we have now, weren't they? Because of the situation with previous owners and stuff like that. So, so it'd be interesting to see, because I don't think we can compare where we were in League Two last time to where we'll be next time, coming off the back of a promotion. Because obviously, for us to be in League Two, we're going to have to go off the back of a promotion and the goodwill and everything that brings. And we spent 21 years looking down at League Two, thinking, "Oh God, I hope we don't go down there." And looking at the games and looking at the sides that are in there. Looking back up at it, you look at it and you look at the top end of the division, and you've got Walsall, Port Vale, Crewe, Wimbledon, Doncaster, Chesterfield, Grimsby, Bradford, Notts County. You'd give your right arm at this stage to be playing some of those teams again, wouldn't you?
Well, all of a sudden, your average attendances are up 800-900 a week, aren't they? In some cases, 2,000. Depending on the likes of Bradford City and people like that. It's just chalk and cheese, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I won't be happy until we're back in League One.
No,
that's where it all sort of started to go wrong, and that's where we need to get back to. But I think it's hard. I do think it's hard for us to get up for some of these games sometimes and get the excitement level. Of like, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, we're playing. Wealdstone and we're winning, and it's obviously it feels like probably more like relief than pure joy. Is that how you would describe it when that winner went in, John? What was it? Was it a sense of relief rather than jubilation, or what?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of relief, but on the other hand, I think, like I say, I think it was a little bit of expectation as well. I think people expected us to get back into the game and win the game, and that's brilliant, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I expected us to win the game. Yeah.
Can we talk about Mike Fondop taking penalties?
Can I start on that, please?
Go on.
I find it embarrassing that you've got players arguing over who's taking the spot kick. I just think, surely to God, everybody knows who's responsible when James Norwood's not on the pitch. Who's taking the spot kick?
Well, the other week, it looked like Danny Gardner was the. I mean, we know Dan Gardner can take a penalty. He was our penalty taker in his first spell during the club for a period. So when Danny Gardner was on the pitch, it looked to me like Danny Gardner was the nominated penalty taker, and Mike Fondop said, "No, I'm having it." Now, in that game, we were 3-0 up, weren't we? Whoever we were playing. Yeah. So it didn't really matter.
It looked like Josh Kay was hanging around it. He wanted it.
I mean, if you're Josh Stones and you're a striker who's on 2 goals getting a penalty for your hat trick, I think you might want to have a go. But either way, I don't think Mike Fondop is necessarily the cleanest striker of a football from a dead ball position, right? I just don't think he is.
I also think it's clear that when he has to think about something, he's not
exactly. He's much better when it's a snap decision and he's not thinking about it. So he went down the middle with the one he scored the other week. He seemed to go down the middle broadly yesterday and slightly to the keeper's left. It was a poor penalty and he got lucky. That should be it now, right? That should really be it. Discipline should start kicking in. Mike, you are at least 4th in the pecking order on penalties. You're not taking them, right?
So what's your pecking order then, Andy? If you're dishing it out, if Norwood's on the pitch, it's a no-brainer. He takes the penalties. What's your pecking order?
Well, I mean, I'm not seeing him every day taking penalties, right? So you presumably do it in training, but you'd imagine
Garner was on at this point as well. Garner was on at that point.
So you'd imagine that in terms of cleaner strikers of football, surely Tom Conlon can take a penalty.
Yeah.
Surely Sam Clucas can take a penalty.
Yeah.
Surely Josh Stones and maybe Garner can take a penalty. But Dan Gardner, if he's on the pitch, we know can take a penalty. So all of those players I'd probably put in front of Mike Fondop taking penalties.
And that's before you sprinkle in any defenders, because I think they could probably strike a ball quite well as well. So he's just well. I'll be honest with you. The minute he picked the ball up, and it looked like he got the nod. I just thought he's missing this. Do you know?
Yeah.
It's just you have that expectation, don't you?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's just the thing. It's just the thing with Fondop. It's just the one thing that he is wonderfully unpredictable. And that's the same thing with that. Like with Norwood,
so therefore you don't want him taking penalties if he's unpredictable.
Right, exactly. He's unpredictable. He's you know, and yeah, you want your most, like, you know, obviously we had on the phone in a couple of months ago. We had Andy Liddle on, and like whenever Andy Liddle stood up to take a penalty, you know, you knew it was going in, and the same thing with Norwood. So. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, though, yesterday it went in, thank goodness, and I don't think
one thing you can say about him, he's not short. He's not short. Put his hand up, is he? And wanted to take it.
Exactly, you know. Right. And players, centre forward should be confident about taking penalties. They should step up. They should bury it every time. They should, you know, like he did the other week. I think it was against Boston, was it, or Tamworth, and he smashed it in, and that's what he should be doing. Just putting the ball down, smashing it in the goal, and
but then again, we always say he's better when he doesn't have to think about anything, and the ball came at him quite quickly, and he finished it well, because that's what he's good at.
Guts number 9 scores all the time. He is divine.
He's Guts number 9. Dave, do you fancy some GN9 merch?
Yes, please.
Go to the shop on our website, weareoldham.co.uk.
Guts number 9 scores all the time. He is divine.
He's Guts number 9. We've got t-shirts. We've got mugs. He's Guts number 9. Guts number 9.
I've only seen the highlights, and there didn't seem to be a vast amount of chances. Did we create a lot of in open play and things yesterday?
Second half, when we were going towards the Rochdale Road, and we broke quick, and we counter-attacked quite well yesterday. There was a couple of misplaced passes that came across the face of the goal. Stones had a chance. You know, there weren't a lot of chances, but we could have won by more. You know, it was a game of your typical game of 2 hours, really, to be honest. You
know. What did you make of? So on Mickey's interview that we played earlier, he was pretty disparaging about the cup games, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think in the week? I mean, I paid little attention to the National League Cup because I'm genuinely not interested in it. But I thought it was great to see many of the academy lads. Bearing in mind, it's not a proper academy anymore, and it's like a BTEC course, isn't it? So it's very different. It was great to see so many of them start and compete against Premier League 2 side. So it shows that some of them have got ability. And then specifically, there was a young lad called Theo Andrew who came on as a substitute, who's from Oldham, Latics fan, being a ball boy, Latics through and through. Fantastic, that, isn't it? That's the sort of stuff that really, you just love it. Like, I hope it. Yeah. I really hope he gets into the first team, you know, on merit and becomes a fan. You know, it's great to see people like that. I thought so. I was quite pleased that you know.
I watched about 45 minutes of it. I had other things to do because, like I said, there's not really much interest in it. But just leading on to that, again, it's, you know, the lads played really well. One thing was evident is that Joe Garner is obviously, you know, really good with the young kids. You know, a lot of them made a beeline for him. You know, when they scored, so he's obviously good around the dressing room. But that's great for these young kids, isn't it? Being playing with top pros like that, it's fantastic. And I'm not too bothered about the whole concepts of this cup. And I don't buy into the fact that, you know, picking up injuries. Yes, we lost Hobson for injury through this competition, but let's be honest, you can pick up a knock in training, can't you? It's probably just as competitive. You know, I think the size of the squad we've got, you know, I think it does give lads a run out, to be honest with you. One thing I was a little bit disappointed with, there was a lot of, I mean, going on to Roy Butterworth as well, but it's like, you know, I was listening to the commentary, and, you know, he seemed to be digging out Jez quite a bit on there. And that's one of the things that really disappoints me about the club at the moment. I think that need the whole media thing there, the daytime thing just needs changing a little bit for me. I'm not knocking the fella, but I think he's probably had his day. I think.
I just think with Roy, he's been there for such a long time. He's part of the furniture, and he does it as a volunteer. And I guess he comes. He's part of the furniture. He's been there such a long time. Everyone knows him that you kind of forgive him things that you might not others. But it was interesting on commentary yesterday. It was
somebody else, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, it was Mikey came back in as anchor yesterday.
Yeah.
So
like I say, I'm not. People are giving the time up, and I'm not knocking the fella. I just think sometimes when you're trying to elevate the club, and there's so much going on at the club that's brilliant. I just think sometimes he's the voice representing the club, and you do see a lot of away fans coming on saying, "Who's this guy on here?" And I find, because I wish I could just switch him off, and that, as awful as that sounds, when I don't have to, when I'm not at games, and I'm watching it on the National League TV. That's he was digging his out quite a bit the other day.
For balance, John, there'll be people listening who like Roy and his quirks and his, as part of that. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, and it's like it's a tough one for anyone to try and have that conversation with Roy, knowing Roy as I do. Yeah. So which is not well, but it wouldn't be an easy conversation for anyone to have with him. I know that much. But look, I mean, some things at football clubs change quickly. Some things at football clubs change slowly. One thing's for sure: if Jim Ratcliffe had bought the club, he would have had Roy out the door in no time, I'm sure, because he's. I mean, it's been interesting, hasn't it? I mean, not just Roy, by the way. I'm not picking on Roy. I'm just saying, like looking at what's been going on at United. I did tweet it in the week that I'm glad. I mean, look, I'm not going to get into a whole political conversation about billionaires and things like that, but generally speaking, they are not billionaires because they are, very, very sensitive to people's feelings, I don't think. No. So there's wholesale changes going on at United, and, sometimes a little bit more sensitivity around football club is needed. And again, so like we had Mickey making sweeping changes in the backroom staff, didn't we?
Yeah.
Earlier on this season or during the preseason, some people said, "Well, it's a bit harsh on such and such a person, this, that, and the other." But I think you'd have to argue that it's been successful because successful clubs and successful managers, not just football managers, but I mean, people like Darren, Darren Royal. If you're going to lead and you're going to manage, you have to make difficult decisions, don't you? So. Yeah.
And Mickey does lead by example, doesn't he, really? I mean, like I said, going back to the fans forum back end of last year, and, a lot of people didn't like what he had to say, about the culture, not just at the club, but, with the fans as well. And a lot of people didn't like that, did they? But he seems to have rode that storm, and because the results have gone his way as well, he seems to have come out the other end, smelling the roses, really, because I think there's not many people. I don't think you really can angle any criticism at Mellon, with his signings or the way he's handled things and the way he's changed things. You can't really grumble, can you? Really?
Listen, the match day experience for me, as the proof is in the pudding, and insofar as if you have to stand next to my brother for 90 minutes, it was a bloody nightmare for certainly the last half of last season. A little bit at the beginning of the season when we were drawing, but now it's a delight. Even he can't pick holes in it. He's happy. Yeah. So it's just, that's the thing. It's just because
I call it Latics bipolar, because our fans they're like a medical condition, aren't they? They go one way and the other. They swing like that, like a pendulum, don't they?
The big question now, John, is which way are you going to swing on Latics' mind, though? How are you going to get on? That's the question we're all asking.
Probably not very well. I'm not the best at quizzes, but I'll give it a bash.
Good luck, mate. Here we go. Let's give it a try. You ready? Yeah, I'll psych you as psyched up as you'll ever be. Here we go.
How many goalkeepers did Latics use in their final Premier League season of 1993-94?
2.
4. In what year did the Boundary Park Alert System podcast make its debut?
2019.
2020. Which Leeds midfielder was pictured elbowing Nick Henry in the face as a penalty was taken by Rick Holden on Good Friday 1990?
Pass.
Who scored Latic's winner at Colchester over Easter in 2014?
Luke Beckett.
It's Connor Brown. Who scored on his second Latic's home debut against Preston North End in September 1997?
Pass.
Who was appointed Latic's manager in February 2019?
John Sheridan.
Paul Scholes. Who scored Latic's winner at Wealdstone this season?
God. Fondop.
Harry Charsley. Who scored Latic's last goal at Ellen Road, Leeds?
Ruben Hazel.
Chris Taylor. Who made Latic's kits between the years 2004 and 2008?
Sparta.
Carlotti. What was the name of Simon Blitz's mobile phone distribution company?
Pass.
Which late striker scored an equaliser for Aston Villa at Boundary Park in 1992?
No idea. Pass.
Pass. Right, that was a big fat 0.
Nothing less.
Right, I'm currently on 3, Andy.
Are you? Right, and you've got
yeah.
Right, and you've got 4 passes to have a crack at.
Yeah.
So, which Leeds midfielder was pictured elbowing Nick Henry in the face when Rick Holden scored a penalty on Good Friday in 1990?
I don't remember the picture, but it's got to be David Batty, hasn't it?
Correct.
4, right.
Who scored on his second Latic's home debut against Preston in September 1997?
I'm trying to think of players that returned, and I don't think it's Rick Holden. We had that one last year, but last week, Neil Adams, he came back to us at one point, didn't he?
It was Tommy Wright.
Right.
What was the name of Simon Blitz's mobile phone distribution company?
I have no idea. What was it?
It was CNCG Communications.
Oh, right. Of course it was.
Which late striker scored an equaliser for Aston Villa at Boundary Park in 92?
Daly and Atkinson?
Correct.
5. That's that'd be a record for me. That I mean, I totally guessed at the four keepers, but I got that one. Did that include Grobbelaar? That was that season, wasn't it?
No. Grobbelaar was 97 when we were in division. When we were back in Division 1.
So that was a pure guess. I guessed at Chris Taylor. I got that right.
I'll name the 4. I'll name the 4 goalkeepers. Oh, can you name them? Can you name the 4 goalkeepers?
Oh, don't push it, Andy. What the last season? The last season in the Premier League.
You should get 2 of them right, at least.
Yeah, well, Paul Gerrard be one of them.
Yeah, Gerrard.
John Allworth.
Correct. Allworth and Gerrard. The other 2 was Lance Key.
Oh yeah, I do remember the name. Yeah,
he was in net. He was in net when Newcastle came and it was on TV, and Andy Cole chipped him. And the other one was Gary Walsh, we had on loan from United.
Right. Yeah. Right. So yeah, 5. Oh, yeah, quite good that.
Decent.
But yeah, there is a good amount of guesswork involved. It's not pulling facts from the fact corner of my mind. Never mind, John.
Don't worry about
it. When I was actually in the hot seat the other week, I only got 1. So yeah,
don't worry.
I was in my head when you said for the Carlotti question. I was going to say Sparta, but I actually said Spal, which was not for a long, long time. So yeah. I would have got that one wrong as well. I did get that one wrong, but never mind.
It's processing the years, isn't it? It's processing the years in your mind.
Yeah,
it's been bad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, what was? Yeah, Yeah, I mean that Simon Corney one was a bit of a tight one to throw in.
Simon Blitz.
Look, I guess as
the
as you know, as this weekly quiz, you know, goes by, there's only a certain amount of, there's a finite number of questions. I mean, there's a lot of them, but I guess they just get tougher and tougher, don't they? That's the thing. So, how many do you reckon you would have got, Andy?
I'd have got a good 5 or 6 of those, I think. Yeah.
I reckon you would. If I did, I reckon you would. Right. So that's it. So, right. What's the schedule for our podcast now? Because as we come up to Christmas, so next week, I think we've got Bin Man on. He's going down to Braintree. So we'll be putting that out as usual on Monday the 23rd. And then obviously we've got the game on Boxing Day, so we'll do one on Monday the 30th. So that's all good. So the next 2 weeks we've got the podcast. January, how will we be doing? Hartlepool. Yeah, we might do a phone in or something. I don't know yet. We'll see about that Monday the 6th. Yeah, I think we'll probably just do a normal podcast as well. So I don't think the podcast will be affected over the Christmas period, which is nice.
No break for the wicked.
No, well, yeah. I mean, you know, it's all important news, isn't it? It's promotion. This is it. This is, you know, it's a 400 meter track. We're just hitting the bend on 200 meters, and you know, it's now. Or it's
I think I'm going to go Braintree Saturday. I think.
Oh yeah, you're going to get a call.
So. Well, I'll jump in the car. I think.
I'll see you there then, John. I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm going to show.
I'm not going to lie, it is tempting.
It's one of them. You know, Christmas is coming up, and you think to yourself, how can you sort of maybe stay off the beer for a week, you know, before it all starts, all the festivities?
by spending most of the day in the car.
Yeah. I've got a friend who has a pub near Milton Keynes, so I might see whether he's free. He's got a hotel on the side, so I might see whether he can put me up and go halfway.
It sounds like you're failing in your mission to stay off the beer there, mate.
Yeah, probably.
We're staying in your mate's pub, but never. But having said that, it sounds like a great idea. So,
that's it.
Right. Well, safe travels to all the Latics fans who are making the trip down to Braintree at the weekend. Thanks, John MacDonald, for joining us on this week's podcast and giving Latics Mind a go. Thanks for that. Thanks for the updates on yesterday's game, or the report on yesterday's game, because myself and Andy were once again. Well, Andy, you're usually useless, aren't you, these days on the podcast on the match reporting front? But you obviously bring a lot of other.
I'm all right for
qualities.
Southern away games is my raison d'etre in it.
Yeah. Okay. So we look forward to hearing your report from next week. And so thanks for joining us as always to our listeners. Thanks to Paul. I always forget, is it Prendergast or Prendergast? Prendergast, must get that right, for the Latics Mind questions, and my mate Matt Berry for the Latics Mind music. We'll see you after Braintree. Thanks for listening. See you later.
Hey Dave, did you know that listeners can now buy us a coffee or any other kind of hot beverage?
Ooh.
What's your favourite hot beverage, Dave?
A macchiato.
And how do you like your macchiato?
Black with lots of milk. Oh.
No cream?
No.
Well, if you want to buy Dave a
macchiato,
then go to buymeacoffee.com/We Are Oldham. I'll just have a Nescafe.
Oh. Thank you, listeners.